Alright, what's up y'all, it's LakerFan here. As y'all can see by the title of today's video, we're ranking every point guard build in NBA 2K21 in tiers E through S. So I hope y'all enjoy. If you do, feel free to drop a like, sub if you're new, turn on them noties. Good stuff. Let's try to 1 to 1K likes in the first 24 hours. And I know this is somewhat adjacent to the lines. You can see, you would think this is the D tier, C tier, B, A, and S, but that's not how it is. This is just our list. We're going to pull and move these into the category, and we're going to start from the bottom, go to the top. So anyway, I hope y'all enjoy. Now, as for my ranking system and how this is going to work, this is for you running as a point guard. This is not you creating a point guard then playing whatever style you want to. This is for you running PG for your team. So, for instance, I have a point guard pure lock myself, but I run the big man with it in 2K21. So clearly I don't think this is an E tier build, or else I wouldn't have it in the first place. But my whole point and explanation of how we have this list set up is the fact that I would not be a good point guard to be running the one in 3v3 or 2v2 or whatever it may be. This is a great build, but it's not meant to be playing point guard. So now you guys understand the mechanical building of my list. Now, if you want to see the big man version of this video, feel free to drop a comment, leave your feedback, let me know if you want to see that. And then speaking of your feedback, feel free to let me know if you think that I messed up anything on this list, if you disagree with where I place any of these as we move down the line. So as y'all have already seen for a couple seconds now, we got the mostly defense, some shooting, and then we got the pure lock and the slash lock coming into the E tier. So my reasoning for all these builds, we'll start with the mostly defense, some shooting. This build I feel like has been a little bit overhyped. A lot of people made this at the beginning of the year thinking that shooting was going to be really easy. So my short analysis on this build, pretty much, it's too much of nothing. So my explanation on that, it's not a good enough lockdown to be comparable to the pure lock, and then it's also not a good enough shooter to even be a reliable shooter in the first place. Now I understand, yes, you can spot up from the corner with this build, but what's the point in having the slightly bit more defense when really all it's giving you is about 2 more defensive attributes in certain situations, a little bit better physicals, just for you to have a little bit less three-pointer, but you don't get the Hall of Fame shooting badges. So what's the point in making this build, in all honesty? As far as running it at point guard is even worse. Obviously the ball handling messed with the struggle of actually being able to build any finishing in your build. And then on top of that, like I was saying, the shooting struggles. Struggling to shoot the ball is never going to be a good thing as far as being the point guards, and that's why we have these 2 builds right here. So we got the pure lock and then the slash lock. Both these builds, pretty solid slashers. They both get contact dunks. You could build playmaking into this and just say forget about shooting entirely. That's how I would suggest to make both of these, because you're not knocking down jump shots with like 5 shooting badges and 55 three-pointer. That's just not happening this year. And I know there's some people out there who think they can do it, but let's be real, man. Even this build right here is going to struggle to shoot as far as all the pick and pop bigs. Then you have the casual players who are going to spot up in the corner with this, and it's still hard to shoot even at that matter. So to even have a thought of these builds trying to shoot is just not the right idea. These are pretty solid on 2v2, but with all things factored in, obviously you're never taking this to Pro-Am. 3v3, it's just not a viable option to be running point guard with either of these builds and trying to ISO with this, because at the end of the day, it's a contested 2-point shot that is not efficient enough to be running in 3v3, whether it be park or stage. So for the D tier, we got the pure slasher, the play slash, the pure sharp, and then the mostly shooting, some finishing. I know it's hard to tell the difference between this one and the even split of the shooting and the finishing, but again, this is going to be the mostly shooting, some finishing. So again, for the D tier, we're going to start from left to right. The pure slasher, you're always going to run into this problem. If you cannot shoot at the point guard spot, like I was just talking about with this build and this build right here, whether it's 2v2, 3v3, Pro-Am, whatever you're talking about, if you can't shoot and you're running point guard, it's going to be a struggle, because the other team can always put their biggest guy on you, their best defender, and just like that, now you're a complete liability to the team. Now, again, you could set screens, for instance, with a build like this, even if you're an undersized point guard, but for you to be running point, like I'm talking ISO or using screens or whatever it is, you got the ball in your hand, you got to score. These builds right here, they are just not it. I'm gonna just put it like that. Now what I will say, and we'll talk about the play slash with this exact same thing in mind. If you're playing randoms, whether it be 2v2 or 3v3, if you're playing people who are not talking to each other or playing together with each other and they're in the party, right? These builds are actually pretty solid to be running at point guard, because they're not going to have the communication and, you know, just the means of actually making the switches every single time, whether it's 2s or 3s. So you're going to be able to dominate the smaller point guards out there. But for anybody who's playing with a squad, they got the common sense to be switching things like that. And it's going to be hard for you to be scoring on taller, better defending builds if you cannot shoot wide open jump shots. Now, my problem with this build right here, and I know it's an underrated, very loved in the community build, and it's probably a little bit overrated in my eyes. But again, my thing with this build is if you upgrade the shooting, you're still going to struggle to shoot. It's going to be as simple as that. And if you take shooting off completely and put it into defense, I think that would low-key be a solid move with this. Obviously, you can still get pro dribble moves, you can get contact dunks, stuff like that. You can still rebound well, you have good physicals, but at the same time, it's the same thing with the pure slash. If you just can't shoot, you can't shoot. So what's the point in even putting shooting into this build? So speaking of the builds that can't shoot, now we have a build with too much shooting. So if you compare this to anything that it's alike to, you got the mostly shooting, some playmaking, or you have the even split between the shooting and playmaking, the play sharp, And these builds are above and beyond way better than the PureSharp in every sense of it. And why is that? It's all about the build imbalancing. I mean, this build right here can literally have 94 3-pointer, 95 3-pointer with Hall of Fame shooting badges, obviously with the even split, and then it gets 25 of them, 25 shooting badges. So what's the point in having 30 shooting badges if you're sacrificing a ton of speed, a ton of playmaking ability, Hall of Fame playmaking badges, and all types of physicals like I was talking about, the speed, the excel, the vertical, all types of stuff. You're losing everything, and all you're gaining is probably 5 more shooting badges and like 3 more shooting points as far as your attributes. So at the end of the day, are these builds awful to run at point guard? The answer to the question is probably no, but they all have their glaring weaknesses. So we were talking about the shooting of these two right here, the defensive deficiencies from both these builds, and honestly the playmaking deficiencies too. I mean, you're not gonna be able to have pro dribble moves with these. You're really not even gonna be able to speed boost with these because you're gonna have to go super low on the height, and if that's the case, then you have extreme defensive deficiencies. And either way, there's better builds out there if you're going to be playing in a certain play style that's trying to be similar to these. And to finalize my thoughts on this one right here, because we haven't talked about this too much, really, what's the point in having some slashing in your build if you don't have contact dunks? That's just the way I see it. I mean, the fact that a pure lock can get contact dunks, but this build can't, I do understand it because obviously this one's way more physically dependent, and this one doesn't exactly have that much physical ability. Really, I don't even think this pie chart should have been a thing. There's really just no point to making this in my eyes. But again, if you guys disagree, feel free to let me know. Drop your comments, leave your feedback. Let me know what you think of all these builds. So coming to the C tier, we have the play lock and the mostly sharp, some playmaking. How the tables have turned on this build right here. So in 2K20, I gotta say this is probably the best build in the game. Could get contact dunks all the way up to 6'8", could shoot the lights out no matter what your height was. Playmaking was ridiculous. Obviously, you could get pro dribble moves. It only required 70 anyway, so it didn't even matter. But now, you can't even get pro dribble moves if you go super tall with this. You're going to struggle to shoot, and then you still can't even get contact dunks past 6'7". So they definitely did their job in nerfing this build to some extent. It is still a great defender, but we all know if you can't shoot, you can be a liability. And it really, to have any like sort of shooting in your build is just going to be a deficiency to your build as far as creating it goes. So to elaborate on that, my problem with the play lock is playmaking means absolutely nothing if you can't shoot. Even for the pure playmaker, if you can't shoot with this build, your playmaking means nothing. You're not going to get any teammates open because you're not drawing any double teams, you're not drawing a help defender if people can just sag off on you and you can't get past them. So with that comes the problem with the play lock, where your playmaking, again, means nothing if you can't shoot. It's the same case with the pure slash, the play slash, all types of builds. You could even make the case for the pure lock, and this is exactly what I'm talking about here. So all this bashing that I'm doing of the build, you guys are probably wondering why the heck I even have it in the C tier. So the thing about this build is, like I was saying, you still get contact dunks if you're 6'7" or below. 6'5" is how I'd recommend to make this build, and just like that, you're gonna get the pro dribble moves. You're gonna be super fast with the ball in your hand. Your physicals are great. You have good speed, good vertical, all types of stuff like that. And you're probably wondering again, well, what does this matter for running point guard? You were just talking about how contact dunks don't even matter if you're gonna be running PG. Well, the thing about this build is you provide some good defense while also, like I was saying, still have contact dunks. If you are a different breed and you can shoot with this build, I understand, like, again, you know, you can make the case for any of those. If you can shoot with this build, if you can shoot with this build, if you can shoot with the pure lock off dribble, yeah, you'd be an absolute beast. But I think what I credit more to this build is the fact that you can spot up with this as well. If you're running something like 2-point guards and you have this build and a PLAYSHARP, this build could get its touches of ISO if you wanted to, as far as whether you're running it at 2v2 or if you're on the 3v3 and you're lining up as the lockdown and you're going to take some ISO touches as well. I know I'm kind of bending the rules of this because, like I was saying, this is strictly for running point guard, but you do apply a lot more to your team with this. Now, if you can shoot consistently from the corner with this, doesn't matter if you can't shoot. Again, you're going to go ahead and just take the ball whenever they have the small PG on you. Most teams are going to be running this PLAYSHARP. You guys all know that, and some of them have literally one defensive badge. If you can shoot with this build in the corner and you can provide good lockdown defense, you can ISO these builds pretty manageably and just hop step their way into the paint, contact dunk them with your contact dunks. You still have the good speed to take them off dribble and stuff like that too. The problem is you can't take advantage of any good defenders. This is only for like literally taking advantage of bad defenders, and this all relies on the fact that you can shoot from the corner. But either way, as far as strictly running point guard, this build is honestly kind of trash. This could belong in the D tier as far as if you're talking about strictly running point. But anyway, moving along to the mostly sharp, some playmaking. This build is okay, solid. Again, you come back to the whole topic of why have this build if you could just have this one. So it's the exact same conversation we just had with the PureSharp. You're going to get around, what, like 27 shooting badges with this right here. You're going to sacrifice the fact that you have Hall of Fame playmaking, and you're going to sacrifice some ball control. I believe you can still get 80 ball control on this build, though, so you're still going to get the pro dribble moves, and that is pretty important for the sake of the Curry slide, stuff like that. But we all know speed boost glitch kind of rules the world anyway, so I'm probably overhyping the ball control anyway. But again, you guys get the deal. Why sacrifice Hall of Fame playmaking badges if all you're getting in return is like 2 or 3 more three-pointer and 2 or 3 more shooting badges? It's really not a good trade-off. It's not worth it. And at the end of the day, you can still run a solid point guard set with this build. It's just not going to be one that you're going to look at and be very happy that you made. So in the B tier, we have the pure play and the mostly slash some shooting. So with these builds, I think these require a supreme amount of skill. If you don't have it, they belong lower on the list. If you do have that supreme amount of skill, these can be top tier point guard builds. Now, again, my thing is, if you can't shoot when left wide open, you're going to struggle. But I've seen a couple pure playmakers out there who are different with this stuff, and they're impossible to guard because they have ridiculous amounts of speed. Obviously, the Hall of Fame playmaking badges, but again, you come back to the whole topic of why be a pure play when you can be this build. So again, this build right here gets 24 playmaking badges. This one can obviously get 30, and really you don't see too much of a ball control difference. This one can get 99 ball control, obviously. This one's going to hang around a little bit more, like 91, 92. So it's a little bit more of a noticeable difference when you compare the shooting of the pure sharp to this build right here, as opposed to the playmaking ability of the pure play compared to this one right here. But let's come back to the pure playmaker. Great physicals. You can go 99 speed all the way up to 6'7" with the pure speed chart. If you go with the speed and vert chart, you can go 6'5" and still get maxed out speed and vertical and acceleration. Either way, pretty solid pie chart. It just varies depending on your skill level more than any build in the game, I would say. You got to be real skilled with this, but if you are, it's one of the most unguardable builds in the game. And the mostly blue some green is pretty much the same way. Now you do get contact dunks on this one, so that is another facet of your offense that's extended. You're going to be a little bit slower with the ball in your hand. Obviously you don't have anywhere near the same ball control, but you still get pro dribble moves. You can still speed boost if you have the pure speed pie chart, anywhere around like 6'5" or under. And again, you're still gonna be able to shoot pretty solid. Now you're probably wondering, well, why is this build in B tier, but this one right here is all the way down in D? Again, what's the point in having slash in your build if you're not gonna have contact dunks? I just feel like this build is honestly really trash overall. It's probably one of the worst builds in the game, but the only reason I have these lower is obviously because it's for running strictly point guard. This build right here has got to be A or S tier when it comes to the bigs. I would obviously say S, but anyway, my whole point is, again, this build requires a good bit of skill. You're going to struggle to shoot when wide open unless you're really good at it. And then as far as you spotting up in the corner, you're going to be able to do your thing as far as spotting up in the corner goes. But the truth behind this build is you're going to have somewhat of a shooting deficiency. You're going to have just enough playmaking to be able to get the pro dribble moves and be able to speed boost. And then you're going to really struggle on defense because you're going to go all out on the finishing, shooting, and playmaking most likely. You're going to have something like lateral quickness and perimeter defense and have one defensive badge. So this build's twin with the even split of the slashing and shooting. This one right here, it wasn't very good before they changed the threshold of the ball control for the pro dribble moves. It was 85 originally, and you had to have this build to be able to get the pro dribble moves and contact dunks. Now that they dropped it down to 80, this one right here can get pro dribble moves, and it's honestly changed the game. It's crazy how this build right here, I probably would have had literally in the C tier before that change, but now I have it in the A tier. So my reason for that, contact dunks, shooting, Hall of Fame shooting at that, and then you can still get the pro dribble moves. So it's literally the exact same thing as this one, but just slightly better now. I mean, in every aspect. It still has the same playmaking. You can still get contact dunks. You can still obviously shoot three-pointers at a much better rate with the Hall of Fame shooting and better three-point rating, and really not anything different as far as the physicals go too much. So now you guys are probably wondering, how the heck is a two-way sharp in the A tier? Well, let me explain. This build right here, like we were just talking about, the 80 ball control threshold for the pro dribble moves, it's going to be able to speed boost plenty fine. Like I'm talking, you have defense in your build, you're going to have good speed, and with that comes obviously, like I was talking about, what is the point of having speed in your build as a ball handler if you can't shoot? Well, you got the Hall of Fame shooting badges. Now, I'm not going to lie, you don't reach the three-point threshold that is going to be needed to be super consistent, but what you can do is a little bit of the difference when the height and the wingspan. Now, I will say, it's not the most ideal thing to be going low on a wingspan with a defensive build, but understand, there comes pros and cons with every wingspan change you're going to do. Obviously, a build like this is going to have minimum wingspan. You don't care about the defensive attributes enough, and you don't care about the dunking attributes enough. A build like this has to go max wingspan, almost, to be able to get the contact dunks. And then this one right here, there's no point in doing anything other than max wingspan, because you're still going to have the pro dribble moves and still have contact dunks, so you're going to be wanting as much dunking ability as possible with that wingspan. But again, that really hurts the defense, so it is hard to say. There is a perfect medium to this. I'm not going to talk about it in this video, but I gotta say, both these builds have benefited massively from the 80 ball control threshold being changed from the 85 that it originally was, because both these got really screwed over in the fact that you needed the 85 ball control. It was almost like literally impossible, and in the situation that it was possible to get 80 ball control with this build, you had to have not contact dunks. So that was just a not very ideal situation for this one. And then someone correct me if I'm wrong, but you might not have even been able to get 85 ball control with this, even if you went like super short, super low on the wingspan at all. I don't even know if you could have reached the 85 ball control. But anyway, let's just do this as we do it. I mean, you guys see the deal. This is the only pie chart left in the S tier. Obviously, the PLAYSHARP. Honestly, you could even make the case that there shouldn't even be an A tier and just have the gap be that big, because there's really no point in making anything other than this build when it comes to being a point guard. I will say though, like I said, that 80 ball control threshold being changed really makes these builds viable. I don't think the gap is as big as it used to be, because honestly, before that was a thing, I would say the pure play was the next best point guard build, or this build right here. And again, the whole gap of like literally not a single build in the A tier would have been massive. So let's talk about the PLAYSHARP. What does it bring to the table for those who don't already know? I feel like you should know, because obviously this game is built for the PLAYSHARP. You got 92 ball control. You got 95 three-pointer. You can still dunk the ball easily when left wide open, and obviously people have to play you super high, so that leads to very easy takes to the rim. Now, if you wanted to do it like that, literally you don't even need finishing badges to dunk the ball well. You just slap on that bronze relentless, you're going to go crazy. And then you got 10 defensive badges on top of that. So this build is just built ridiculously. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this in the first place. You got great defense for, you know, how small the pie chart defensive segment really is. Like I said, you can still get 10 defensive badges. You can still be 6'5" with this build. Go, I would say probably minimum wingspan just for the sake of the ball control and the three-point reasons. But even at that, you got the great playmaking, you got the great shooting, you got the ability to dunk, you have pretty average to solid defense, and then really we should talk about the shooting thresholds. So this is honestly, it feels like the only build that can shoot the ball and is usable. I mean, you have builds like this right here that's obviously gonna be able to shoot the ball, and same with the PLAYSHARP, and even same with this one. But do they bring anything to the table? Not really. I mean, you know, like I said, they don't have the Hall of Fame playmaking. You sacrifice the speed and like ball control problems, and especially with this one right here. And then this one doesn't even get contact dunks, so what's the point really, like I was saying? And then you have builds like this that are going to struggle to shoot, again, somewhat struggle to shoot, again, struggle to shoot. I mean, all of these, like struggle to shoot, struggle to shoot, struggle to shoot, struggle to shoot, not enough defense, not enough playmaking, not enough defense, not enough playmaking or speed between the two of these, struggle to shoot, struggle to shoot, struggle to shoot, and, you know, just flat out not good. So again, really in the hierarchy and the tier list of this point guard stuff, the PLAYSHARP rules. It's about as simple as that. Top tier point guard. Really, it's not even debatable. And like I was saying though, I think one thing to be learned with this tier list for anybody who's new to this stuff, these builds right here are real sleepers. Like, I think these could be really fun to run. On 2v2, this could actually be pretty solid too at a smaller height. And again, a build like this, you do have to, like, you do have some wingspan issues to deal with when you have builds like this. But either way, we all get the deal. PLAYSHARP rules, that's just how it is. But anyway, if you guys want to see the big man version of this video, feel free to let me know. I could get it done tomorrow, I could get it done in the future, whatever you guys want to see. And then if you disagree with anything that I had on this list, feel free to drop some feedback. Let me know what you did agree with, disagree with, whatever it may be. If you think something should have gone up higher in the list for whatever reason. I mean, I don't think much of this stuff is very debatable in my opinion. But again, I understand there's a lot of variety of archetypes you can pick, and you're bound to, somebody out there has bound to have made something original. Like, obviously a lot of people are going to rock out with this build, but there's also a lot of people that have this one. I feel like not many people have created this because it wasn't very good before the patch, but now you might see a couple of them roll in. But again, it's kind of tough to say because we're obviously on current gen where not a lot of people are going to hang around once the next gen comes out, and obviously not everybody's trying to just put a lot of money in, a lot of effort into a new build. A lot of people are rocking out with the one build that they made, and most of that is going to be the PLAYSHOT. So anyway, that's all for the video. If you made it to the end, put PG in the comments to show your support. You made it all the way through. Let's try these 1 to 1K likes like I said in the intro. And other than that, hope you all enjoyed. Take it easy, man. Peace.